Wondering what, if anything, will grow in your garden when the temperature starts getting above 100 degrees? Well, stick around because here are the vegetables that not only will grow, but thrive in the scorching summer heat. Come on, let's go. You know, when your local weather forecast starts looking something like this, it's a pretty safe bet that your tomatoes, green beans, corn, and lettuce have long since stopped producing and probably even bolted. But by growing the right heat-loving vegetables, you can maximize your garden's productivity, get a head start on your fall harvest, replenish depleted soil nutrients, practice crop rotation, and still enjoy fresh vegetables during the hottest part of the summer. Now, one very important thing to keep in mind is that even though these vegetables will grow in the hot summer heat, they definitely need to be kept at a consistent moisture level with regular watering. Now, for my square-foot garden raised beds on the old concrete basketball court, I need to run my drip irrigation system really every morning to keep things alive. The first vegetable that can really take the summer heat is one we're probably all familiar with, and that's peppers, whether sweet or hot. They'll not only grow in the summer heat, but also produce a modest harvest. The plant actually produces peppers at a faster rate during these extreme temperatures than it does during cooler weather because the plant's trying to reseed itself. But if you keep your peppers watered now, you'll be rewarded with a bountiful fall harvest. I always get a ton of peppers in the fall. Purslane is a plant you might be familiar with either as a flowering ornamental or it's just a weed. But there's a couple varieties of this leafy green that are among the most heat-tolerant and extremely nutritious vegetables you can grow in your garden. It's a succulent whose young, crispy leaves, which have a slight lemony flavor, can be used like spinach in almost anything. Add it to salads, potato salad, or pesto. Saute and add it to your eggs, or grow as microgreens. Purslane's extremely high in omega-3 fatty acids, having 5 times more than spinach. It's got 7 times the beta-carotene of carrots. For the best flavor, harvest the young tender leaves before the plant flowers. Now, it'll die back in cold weather, but will come back in the spring. It's a very aggressive grower, so it's an excellent candidate to put in a container. I've actually started swapping out almost all of my ornamental plants in containers and hanging baskets with either edibles or fresh herbs. The 2 best varieties of purslane to grow for food are Gelgeber and Red Gruner. The hot days and warm nights of summer are ideal for sweet potato production. Just be sure to plant them 100 to 130 days before your first fall frost when you'll be able to harvest them. Sweet potatoes are very nutrient dense and they store well over the winter. Now, their vines do grow quite aggressively. This year I used crop cages to keep the squirrels from digging up my newly planted slips and decided to leave the crop cages on for the vines to grow on. Kind of like a giant chia pet. Probably one of the most surprising vegetables on our list is winter squash. Now, it is a heavy water user. The vines will grow very aggressively up a trellis and even start to form young squash that will be ready to harvest come fall. Now, squash vine borers and squash bugs have been a real problem for me here for the last couple of years, so keep an eye out for them. Malabar spinach is one of the most beautiful and nutritious vining edible leafy greens you can grow in your garden in this hot weather. Although it's not a real spinach, its leaves resemble and can be used like spinach. When the leaves are young, they make a crispy, slightly citrusy, slightly peppery addition to salads, smoothies. They can be sautéed or used in soups, stews, and stir fries. It's an aggressive grower and it'll need a pretty significant trellis to grow up. I'm going to interplant some on this trellis with my butternut squash. Now, we'll need consistent, regular watering and be sure to harvest the leaves before the plant starts to flower when the leaves will turn bitter. Okra originated in Ethiopia and grows to be a tall, upright plant. Now, the most common mistake gardeners make is to let the pods become too old and tough before harvesting them. They grow very fast and in hot weather will become unfit for use in less than a week once they start developing from the pollinated flower. You should harvest the pods when they're between 3 to 5 days old. Probably one of the most useful vegetables to grow in the heat is the old southern favorite black-eyed peas. It's a member of the legume family and it's actually a bean, not a pea. Black-eyed peas actually produce their own nitrogen and fix that into the soil via root nodules and prepare for cool season crops to be planted there in the fall. The nutritious beans will be ready to harvest in about 65 to 80 days. And you can pick and eat them like green beans when they're young, or let them get a little bit bigger, pick them and shell them like peas, or let them dry on the vine, then pick them, and you've got a great dried bean to store over the winter. It's important that you maintain a consistent moisture level throughout fruit set and pod development, but don't waterlog the soil. Now, make sure you don't fertilize them because that'll just result in increased vine fine growth but poor pod production. So don't sweat it this summer. Try some of these heat-loving vegetables and keep your garden growing. Wait a second, if you want to learn how to grow sweet potatoes, check out this video up here. And for one surefire way to keep squirrels out of your garden, this is your video.